Hello, and welcome to I Couldn't Throw It Out. I'm Michael Small, a former pop culture journalist who really likes to save things. On this episode, my co-host Sally and I will look through the Valentine's Day cards that I've saved since the 1970s. Then we'll share the 10 important rules you should follow when sending cards on Valentine's Day. Like, what should you do with romantic cards you saved from past lovers? To find out, keep listening.
I couldn't throw it out. I had to scream and shout. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. Before I turn to dust.
Hello, Sally Libby.
Hello, Michael Small.
I think it's an understatement that I've been feeling upset by the state of the world lately. Can you relate?
I can so relate.
In fact, I went up to the attic to look through my boxes for everything I'd saved related to Valentine's Day, and at first it just seemed so silly compared to what's going on that I almost ditched the whole thing. But then I looked at the cards people had sent me, my mother, my sisters, my grandmother, my wife, you, and I actually thought, this is more important than I realized.
I think we could use a little silly.
Yes, I agree. And as silly as Valentine's Day can be, some of these cards really truly are about love.
And doesn't love conquer all?
It certainly does. And I think a little more love is exactly what I need right now. And other people may feel the same way. How about you?
I definitely do. And I love Valentine's Day.
There are reasons why you love it, which we share. A lot of these cards that I looked at made me laugh. I certainly could use a reminder to laugh at this stage in American history. So we're going ahead with the episode. And not only that, I realized from looking at these cards that I saved since the 1970s, they actually might have value, not just for me, but for other people too, because we can look at them and we can come up with some very useful do's and don'ts related to sending Valentines.
Is there a book, Writing Valentines for Dummies?
Well, we can write it after we're done with this episode.
Okay.
I know the idea of keeping Valentine's Day cards kind of goes against the purpose of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm about to shock you, Sally. Here it is. I don't think it's right to keep every Valentine.
Why not?
I'm going to tell you, and I'm actually going to toss some of the Valentines I've saved for decades. I'm going to do it today. Do you trust me?
Well, talk is cheap, Michael.
Yeah. Before we talk about our rules for Valentine's Day cards, it makes sense for us to talk a little bit about the day itself. In my opinion, the best thing that ever happened on Valentine's Day was in 1957, the day you were born.
Oh, wow.
Your mom gave you as a Valentine to the world.
Mwah.
It's also interesting that you are one of the 4 people who sent me the most Valentines in my life.
Oh.
So that means you were sending me cards on your birthday, and I almost never sent you a Valentine or a birthday card.
Is that true?
It is.
Oh, Michael.
How did you feel about having a birthday on Valentine's Day?
I really liked it because I love hearts and I love love and I love lace. And my auntie would make me a Valentine-shaped cake. It was fun.
I think this qualifies you to be the right person to be an expert on the holiday. I know you did a little research.
I did a little research.
Can you remind us a little bit about the history of Valentine's Day? If you go back all the way, what is the origin of this celebration?
All right, we're going to go back to the ancient Romans. They celebrated the feast of Lupercalia. The men sacrificed a goat and a dog and then whipped the women with hides of those animals.
That was love in those days.
Oh, back then, that was love. Young women lined up to be whipped because they thought it would make them fertile.
Whoa. Okay.
Has that ever worked with anybody?
I'm struggling to see the link to the celebration of love, but okay, if that's where it began.
Well, then there was a matchmaking lottery the same weekend in which young men drew the names of women from a jar.
And what about St. Valentine? Can you tell me how he got involved?
Mm-hmm. In the 3rd century, Emperor Claudius executed 2 men, both named Valentine.
So you're telling me that it wasn't really necessarily one St. Valentine. There were a few.
I think it was an amalgamation.
Ah.
They became martyrs, and their martyrdom was honored by the Catholic Church with a celebration of Valentine's Day.
So what about Cupid? How did he get involved with this? He sneaked into St. Valentine's party and tried to take it over.
Well, he was appropriate because he was the son of Venus and Mars. You put those two together, and love is a struggle, right? Cupid also wore a diaper, and I don't think he was really that young. So having been around a long time, maybe it was sort of like a depends kind of thing.
Makes you think of love with someone who's wearing depends. So when did people start treating Valentine's Day like the lovey-dovey holiday it became?
Actually, Chaucer and Shakespeare romanticized it in their work. And in the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution produced factory-made cards. And then our beloved Hallmark started mass-producing cards in 1913.
And that was a Hallmark moment.
It sure was.
Do people celebrate Valentine's Day outside of Europe and places that used to be European colonies?
They do. It's celebrated all over the world, but not in every country. In Chile, they give jewelry. In South Korea, a woman will give a man chocolates. And then a month later, the man gives the woman chocolates.
It's like fair trade chocolate.
Yeah. In Italy, some places in Italy, a man will give a woman a key, and that would symbolize a key to his heart. And in the Philippines, they have mass marriages taking place on the Lover's Day.
Which would be February 14th.
That's right.
To what extent are people getting involved with Valentine's Day? Are people buying a lot of gifts or what?
Oh my gosh, are they buying gifts? Every year, $26 billion are spent on Valentine's gifts.
What?
Now, for you cheapskates out there, listen to this. The average for a gift is $193.
Whoa, I don't think I've ever spent more than $2.
Excluding kids in classrooms Valentines and those little parties, 145 million cards go out each year.
Okay, so people are very involved.
Here's the big statistic. $751 million are spent on gifts for pets.
And I bet not one of those pets sends a thank you note. Now, speaking of notes, do you have any information about when the first Valentine's Day cards were sent? Like who sent the first cards and why?
From what I understand, the first Valentine card went out in 1400s. Charles, the Duke of Orleans, was imprisoned in the Tower of London. His letter to his wife was the first English version of a Valentine's love message.
Love poems from the Tower.
Yeah.
That is a great inspiration for us to look at the cards I've saved
All right.
and how everyone can learn from them. They may not come from the Tower of London, but they come from the attic of Michael. And there were a few surprises when I went through the boxes. One of the surprises is that I thought I would have a lot more. I actually saved only 42 Valentines, which means I threw out a lot of them over the years.
Oh.
So now we are ready to go on to Mike and Sally's 10 rules for sending and receiving Valentine's Day cards. Sally, you have the list, and would you please read us rule number 1?
Rule number 1. Do not save Valentines from past partners.
Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a surprise here. When I went into my Valentines, I found 3 from my first girlfriend, and she had made 2 of them. They were rather large. I looked at them and I thought, these are so nice and sweet. They need to be destroyed immediately. Because she's happily married, I'm happily married. Those Valentines just should not exist. In honor of her, I didn't even wait to do it on this podcast. I saw them and I immediately ripped them up and threw them out. I even ripped them up so that they could not be found.
Oh, Michael, I would have loved to have seen that.
See me ripping up something and throwing it out? I know.
Yes.
It's so rare. I should have saved it, but I didn't even want to wait. So the part of that rule is there are things in the past that should stay in the past. And they were wonderful. And it conflicts with your present in a certain way. I would say if you are someone who held on to Valentines from past partners, time to let them go. And that's coming from me, Mr. Save Everything. So that's a pretty strong recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I thanked my past for those beautiful cards, and then I said goodbye.
Oh, nice.
So now we're on to rule number 2.
Rule number 2. Don't send a card if it's inappropriate for your relationship.
Okay, in this case, I have 2 examples. One is an inappropriate and one is an appropriate. Which do you want first?
I'll take the inappropriate first.
Okay. This is a card that I received from my wonderful grandmother, Francie. My actual grandmother, Rose, was very sick by the time I was born, and I never really knew her. And I know she was a fantastic person, and she was just a powerhouse, but I think she had Parkinson's or something, so I never really knew her. So the grandmother I knew was my grandfather's second wife, and Valentine's Day was her holiday. Her name was Francie, and she sent Valentines to all of us. So she must have bought, 25, 30 Valentine cards. She loved pink. She wore pink clothing. She had pink lipstick. She was very beautiful, and she had blonde hair, and she was very cultured. Like, she played the piano wonderfully, and she was a very kind and generous person, and smart, really smart. So we were really lucky when she joined our family, and we were lucky that we got these Valentine cards. But there was one year when she must not have looked very carefully at the card, because on the front of the card is sort of a floor plan of a house. Shows where the living room is, the kitchen, dining room, etc. And then there's the bedroom. And in the bedroom is a woman in the bed with a red sheet over her, okay? And every other room has nothing in it. It's just like a drawing of the house. And inside it says, if you'd like to be my Valentine, you know where to find me. In other words, you'll find me in the bedroom naked under the red sheet. That was from my grandmother.
Oh, yes. The eyeglasses must have not have been too accurate.
That means if you're going to send a card, don't send an inappropriate card. This one's so inappropriate, I think I might save it.
Just for the laughs.
But meanwhile, I got one that was super appropriate from my sister Lynn. And on the front it says, love you, brother. And inside it says, the fact that it's Valentine's Day and that I put up with you my whole life gives me the right to say that. Have a good one. Love you and your beautiful wife, Lynn.
Lovely.
So that was so appropriate. That one is a keeper. So just remember, be appropriate. Sally, what's the next rule?
Rule number 3. Don't write something lovey-dovey if you don't actually mean it.
This is interesting. These are kind of private, but I will say one woman in college and one woman in high school sent me very lovey-dovey Valentines. The one from college says, written by hand, my dearest Michael, happy Valentine's Day. You have the key to my heart and much, much more. Kisses, comma, the person's name.
Oh.
She didn't have a crush on me.
Are you absolutely sure about that?
Yes. But I imagine when I got that card, I got pretty darn excited. And here's another one. This one is handmade from a high school person. And it says, hello, Michael, friend. Okay, hello, Michael, friend. Did you know I love you? And then there's a heart, and in it says, I love you, written by hand about 50 times.
But she seemed to have put you in the friend zone, but then she's lovey-dovey all over the place.
I know, and that was someone who I really had a crush on. Both of these people meant really well, and I'm not criticizing them. I'm just saying, just remember, if you send one to somebody and you don't love them, and they might possibly kind of have a crush on you, just hold back on that, if that makes sense. You agree, Sal?
I do agree.
Okay. I think the next one you might also agree with.
Oh, yes. Number 4 is Go for laughs.
Okay, so as I was saying, a lot of the Valentine cards were funny in some one way or another. I received a lot of Valentines that I saved from my mother, and two of them were pretty funny. So I'll read you one of those. On the front, it has a picture of a boy on the top of a pillar, so I guess he's being worshipped. It says, Happy Valentine's Day to a son who has everything: ability, looks, charm, talent, personality, and on the inside it says, wonderful parents. And then my mom wrote, couldn't resist this obnoxious card. We love you, Mom and Dad.
Oh, that's great.
So that was a good laugh.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, when it comes to laughs, there is you. There was one you sent me in 1988. What it has on the card, I'm not even going to read what the card came with. But what made me laugh anyway is it says on the inside of a Valentine's Day card, you used to be the most irritating person in the world. Now you're somewhere around number 20. However, I love you so much it hurts. Sometimes I get mixed up with a punch in the face.
I wrote that?
Yeah. And then you put, and now for these promised positive strokes. And then you said 5 very nice things.
I was sort of passive aggressive, wasn't I?
No, well, you were kidding around with me. And Valentine's Day is a good time for kidding around.
It is. Little levity.
Go for it, people. Do the laughter. Sally, what's number 5?
Number 5, send the card only to immediate family if it involves jokes about farting.
Now, I had 6 cards I saved from my sister Debbie. Obviously, I didn't save everyone she sent me.
Must have been like a tsunami of cards.
But 3 of them are about farting on Valentine's Day.
Really?
Just so you know, this says, this Valentine is stuffed with love, is what it says on the front. And on the inside, it says, and fairy farts. Okay, there's that one.
Okay.
The next one, it has a cat on the front, a crazy cat, and it says, I hope you really like this Valentine. And inside it says, somebody farted in the card shop, and I could only hold my breath long enough to grab this one. She didn't make that. That was a printed card she bought.
No.
Yes, both of these.
Oh, my God.
All of these are printed cards. Someone printed, somebody farted in the card shop, and I could only hold my breath long enough to grab this one. And then this last one, speaking of Cupid, has Cupid on the cover with the little arrow and bow and diaper. And coming out of the diaper, it says PFFT, like pfft, like a fart.
Right.
There's a fart coming out of the diaper, and inside it says, love is in the air. Happy Valentine's Day. I would say if you are lucky enough to find Valentine's Day cards about farting, you must have a sibling, a parent, a child who would like it, but do not send it to someone who you love in the other way. Okay, number 6, Sally.
All right. Avoid poems written by the greeting card company.
You know, I think if you want to write a poem, write your own poem. There are a lot of poems in these cards, and they're really not good.
I totally agree.
You sent me as a joke this poem. It's a little bit long, but I'm tempted to read it just because I hope it will make people stop and think before they actually do this seriously. So here's the poem inside the card. On the cover is a photo of 2 chairs outside in like a patio garden waiting for lovers to sit in them. And it's called A Love Story. And it says, it started out as just small talk, 2 people sitting together, passing the time away. But as they talked, she noticed how intense his eyes grew when he was deep in thought, and how his voice made her feel all shivery and alive. And he realized that her laugh sounded like bells calling him closer, and that her hair caught the sunlight like a painting he'd seen once in a museum. It started out as small talk to pass the time away, but below the spoken words, 2 hearts were already whispering in a language all their own. And that's where it ends. Now, before we move on, I want to wallow a bit in those words and the questionable subtext. It repeats twice that it started out as small talk. So apparently, if you want a real relationship, you have to perfect your small talk. Also, You need to make your hair resemble a painting in a museum. So maybe you cover it with colored dots and it's like a Seurat, or you make it all boxy and distorted like a Picasso. And then your laugh must sound like bells. But that's only until you get married, because 30 years later, you might laugh like a bell and your spouse will have had enough of it and they're going to get out a weapon and it's going to be the end of your life. So I think that says it all. Avoid cards with pre-made poems. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Don't just sign your name.
Well, this is the thing. The greeting card company is going to write something. You need to supplement it a little bit.
You must.
So this came to me when I found this one card, and it has a drawing of hearts in a bouquet and they're in a vase as if they were flowers. And it says on the cover, "A bouquet of love, especially for you." The reason why this one stood out to me is it reminded me of the sender. And the sender was my grandfather's half-sister. And she would come to events at their house and she would put on an apron and spend the whole time in the kitchen cleaning the dishes and would not come out. She was our relative, but she acted sort of like she was the help.
Oh, was she shy or retiring?
I guess. And I used to sometimes take her on dates to try to just like get her out, and help her.
Oh.
When I was in college, I would take her out for lunch or something just to give her a little break.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. She signed all her cards, whenever she sent them, she'd sign them "Just Me"
Oh.
or "Just Min." She never used her name without the word "just" in front of it.
A little self-esteem problem?
Definitely. I hadn't been thinking about her lately, and I just feel like, she really wanted to try to make things good for people.
Yeah.
But to make herself just disappear. Anyway, if you are sending a card, do more than just put "just me."
Right.
What is next rule, Sally?
The next one is always put a year on it. And I agree with that. It's great to know when something occurred.
Yes, this is super important. It's the most useful thing we could possibly say, because if people are going to save your cards, then you have to guess, like, was this from 1980? Was this from 2025? Because it is an annual ritual where cards get sent every year, be sure to put a year on it.
Right.
When I was sorting through a lot of them, I can't tell really how old they are. Okay, next rule. Sally, what is rule number 9?
If possible, make the card yourself.
This is time for a disclaimer. The greeting card companies do great work, so much variety, creativity, better than ever. But if you really want to give a Valentine that will be saved, or that will get you the best results in the love department, your best bet is to go with homemade. In my collection, there's one that stands out beyond all the rest. It was given to me by my wife, who is an artist. It's the size of a normal piece of paper, and she drew sort of a map from when we met in college to when I visited her in San Francisco, and we went down the crookedest street in the world, Lombard Street. Then it ends with us in a tunnel of love, and then on the back of it, she has stuck maybe, I don't know, like 50 little tiny stickies that you have to read each one, and they also go in a maze. And the image on the front shows us sort of wandering through life, and there's little tiny twisty little text. If you read it carefully, it's very hard to read. It says, "Don't panic. They're okay. They've survived the Bermuda Triangle, threatening escapes, the murder of a sweatshirt," which she ruined my sweatshirt, "and a variety of heart attacks, some bad timing, some inconsistencies, and a very twisty route, all in all."
I love it.
And I think we've been on that twisty path ever since then. Cindy also pulled out this morning a handmade card I made for her in college. Those cards were saved because they're so special, because they were handmade. And Sally, you gave me handmade cards too, and they were special and they got saved. And so urging everybody, if you have it in you, to get the construction paper or a piece of white paper and scissors.
Right. You don't have to be an artist, but just have fun with it.
Yep. Which brings us to number 10. The last of our rules.
Save at least one card from anyone you truly love.
I know this is supposed to be where you're throwing everything out, but basically, I could not throw out all of my cards. I felt that I wanted to save every single one for my wife.
Yeah.
And I saved 2 for my grandmother, Francie, because it was her holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And I saved 3 from you, Sally. One of them was homemade.
Oh.
And I saved 3 for my mom. And I was not going to throw out those fart cards. But I have here a little folder. This is really painful. There are cards in here from my mother, from my sister, from you, Sally, even one that you made yourself. And I have here a trash can. And you see this? Watch me. In they go.
Oh, Michael. Ouch. That hurts. It hurts.
I threw out 18 of my Valentines.
Well, congratulations. You did the near impossible. Hopefully, our future will include more of that.
Because you haven't seen me throw out a lot of things on this.
Oh, no.
I am hurting inside. It's painful to me, but I feel good that I did save 20 for other ones.
Well, I saved one from my best friend who passed away a year ago, December. And her name was Jeannie Smith. And it's a little girl from Holland in her clogs. And in the heart, it says, "Wouldn't you be mine?"
Aww.
That was sort of a running joke we had with "Wouldn't you be mine?" And I just adored her. And I miss her so much.
When she sent you the card?
Unfortunately, there's no date on it, but I think it's over 40 years old.
We have to talk to Jeannie up where she is and say, Jeannie, you should have put a date on it.
I know.
And that argues for saving one from someone you love.
That's right.
Everybody, we hope that helped you with deciding how you're going to send cards, what you're going to send, and sending ones that people will want to keep. That's it for Valentine's Day from us. You can see the classic cards I'm saving, including the farty ones from my sister and the amazing handmade one from my wife, Cindy, on our website at throwitoutpodcast.com. Sally, do you have anything to add?
Well, I just want to tell everyone that if you really love us, I mean really love us in the way that Sally Field was once loved at the Academy Awards, we would be so happy if you'd go to our website and sign up for our email list. That way you'll know about future episodes of our podcast, and you don't even have to look at social media. You can sign up at throwitoutpodcast.com.
And yes, and I'm in favor of the not looking at social media that much. So please do what Sally said. And remember, no matter how crazy the world gets, the people you love will make you feel better. So be sure to give them extra love this year.
It's not too late to make them a Valentine's Day card.
And if you make me one, I promise I'll keep it forever.
Michael.
Actually, based on today, there's a 47% chance that I'll throw it out. Bye, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Love y'all.
Look up that stairway to my big attic. Am I a hoarder or am I a fanatic? Decades of stories, memories stacked. There is a redolence of some irrelevant facts. Oh, I couldn't throw it out. I had to scream and shout. It all seems so unjust, but still I know I must. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. Well, I couldn't throw it out. Oh, I couldn't throw it out. I'll sort through my possessions in these painful sessions. I guess this is what it's about. The poems, cards, and papers, the moldy, musty vapors. I just gotta sort it out. Oh, I couldn't throw it